Walking Away. The Ultimate Rebellion Against Judgment. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Introduction. We've all been there, standing at the crossroads of a decision that feels both terrifying and liberating. The weight of others' expectations pressing down, the whispers of judgment swirling around like an invisible storm. We stay rooted in place, not because it's right, but because we're afraid to walk away. The fear of being misunderstood, criticized, or labeled as weak often holds us hostage in situations that stifle our true potential. But what if walking away wasn't a sign of weakness? What if, instead, it was the ultimate act of rebellion against the judgments that seek to confine us? Walking away is not just about leaving behind the physical or emotional spaces that no longer serve us, it's about reclaiming our power. It's a declaration that we refuse to be defined by the narrow perceptions of others. In a world that constantly tells us who we should be, choosing to walk away from judgment is the boldest affirmation of who we truly are. This book is your guide to mastering this powerful art. It's about learning to listen to your inner voice above the clamor of external opinions. It's about recognizing that your value isn't tied to how others see you, but to how you see yourself. Each chapter will take you deeper into the process of disentangling from the web of expectations and rediscovering the strength within you. We'll explore the psychology behind why we often stay in situations that don't nurture us, and we'll equip you with the tools to break free. Through practical advice, relatable stories, and exercises designed to build your self-worth, you'll learn how to confidently walk away from the spaces, relationships, and mindsets that no longer contribute to your growth. Walking away is not about giving up, it's about stepping into a future that is aligned with your deepest values and desires. It's about choosing yourself time and time again, no matter what the world might say. As you turn these pages, prepare to challenge everything you've been taught about staying put. Prepare to redefine what it means to be strong. And most importantly, prepare to walk away not in defeat, but in triumph. Because in the end, the most powerful statement you can make is not in staying where you are, but in boldly walking away. We've noticed that 70% of you watching our videos haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Help us grow by hitting the subscribe button and giving this video a thumbs up. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating content for you. Chapter 1. The Unshakable Power of Boundaries. Boundaries. The word itself often evokes a sense of restriction or limitation. Yet the reality is quite the opposite. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where you end and where someone else begins. They are the ultimate expression of self-respect, the foundation upon which healthy relationships and a fulfilled life are built. Without boundaries, we become vulnerable to the whims and demands of others, losing sight of our own needs and desires. But with them, we gain the strength to stand tall, to protect our energy, and to walk away from anything that seeks to diminish us. In our society, many of us have been conditioned to believe that setting boundaries is selfish or even aggressive. We're taught to put others first, to accommodate, to compromise even when it comes at the expense of our own well-being. This mindset can be particularly harmful, leading us to accept disrespect, tolerate mistreatment, and remain stuck in toxic situations out of fear of rocking the boat. But here's the truth: boundaries are not just important, they are essential. They are the ultimate form of self-care, a clear declaration that you value yourself enough to protect your peace. Walking away from situations that violate your boundaries is not an act of weakness, it is an act of strength. It requires courage to recognize when something is no longer serving you, and even more courage to step away from it. This chapter will guide you through the process of identifying and setting those boundaries, helping you to reclaim your power and respect your worth. Consider this: have you ever found yourself in a relationship where you felt constantly drained, unappreciated, or even disrespected? Perhaps you've stayed because you believed things would change, or because you didn't want to be seen as difficult. Or maybe you feared being alone. These are common experiences, but they are also signs that your boundaries are not being honored. The longer you stay in such a situation, the more you erode your own sense of self-worth. The solution? It's time to start setting boundaries and walking away when those boundaries are crossed. Imagine a woman named Lydia. She was the kind of person who always put others first at work, in friendships, in her romantic relationships. She prided herself on being accommodating, believing that this made her a good person. But over time, Lydia began to feel exhausted. She noticed that her kindness was often met with demands, not gratitude. Her efforts to please others left her feeling empty, and she realized that she was being taken for granted. The turning point came when Lydia finally recognized that her constant giving wasn't being reciprocated. She was pouring from an empty cup. For Lydia, the first step toward change was acknowledging the truth she was allowing others to overstep her boundaries because she wasn't enforcing them. It wasn't easy for her to start saying no, to stop bending over backward for people who didn't value her efforts. But once she did, something incredible happened. She began to reclaim her time, her energy, and most importantly, her self-respect. Lydia learned that those who truly valued her respected her boundaries, while those who didn't were quick to disappear from her life. And she was okay with that. This is the unshakable power of boundaries. They not only protect you but also filter out the relationships and situations that are not meant for you. By walking away from what no longer serves you, you make space for what truly does. Setting boundaries might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to putting others' needs before your own, but it's a discomfort that leads to profound personal growth. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize that your boundaries are not just a part of your life, they are the very framework that supports it. In this chapter, you'll explore practical strategies to establish and maintain strong boundaries in every area of your life. You'll learn how to communicate your limits clearly and confidently, and how to handle the inevitable pushback from those who aren't used to you standing your ground. Most importantly, you'll discover the freedom and empowerment that come with walking away from anything or anyone that doesn't respect the boundaries you've set. Remember, walking away isn't about abandoning others, it's about honoring yourself. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to settle for anything less than respect and reciprocity. As you begin this journey, take pride in every step you take toward asserting your boundaries, no matter how small. Each step is a declaration that you are worthy of love, respect, and peace both from others and, most importantly, from yourself. Chapter 2. Redefining Strength: The Courage to Walk Away. Strength is a word that carries immense weight in our society. We're taught from a young age that being strong means enduring, pushing through, and never giving up. But what if that definition is incomplete? What if true strength sometimes lies not in holding on, but in the courage to let go? Walking away is often seen as a last resort, something we do only when all other options have been exhausted. Yet, there is profound power in recognizing when a situation, relationship, or even a mindset no longer serves us, and choosing to walk away. Not out of weakness, but out of an unwavering commitment to our own well-being. In this chapter, we'll challenge the traditional notions of strength and explore what it truly means to be strong. We'll delve into the reasons why walking away can be one of the most courageous acts you can undertake, and how it can ultimately lead to greater growth and fulfillment. Imagine the story of Marcus, a dedicated professional who had invested years into building a career at a company that, at one point, aligned perfectly with his goals and values. But as time went on, Marcus began to notice subtle shifts in the company's culture, shifts that clashed with his own principles. He found himself in meetings where his voice was increasingly dismissed, projects where his efforts were overlooked, and a growing sense of discomfort that settled in his gut each morning as he prepared for work. Despite these red flags, Marcus stayed. He told himself that leaving would be too risky, that he should be grateful for the stability of his job, and that perhaps things would improve if he just hung on a little longer. But deep down, Marcus knew the truth: the company was no longer a place where he could thrive. His staying was driven by fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what others might think if he walked away from what seemed, on the surface, to be a successful career. The turning point came when Marcus realized that his definition of strength was flawed. He had been equating strength with endurance, with the ability to stick it out no matter what. But what if true strength was something else entirely? What if it was the ability to listen to that inner voice telling him that he deserved better? What if strength meant valuing his own integrity and happiness enough to walk away from a situation that no longer aligned with his values? With this new understanding, Marcus made the decision to leave. It wasn't easy. Walking away rarely is, but it was a decision grounded in courage, not fear. And as soon as he did, Marcus felt a sense of relief, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in months, he could breathe freely. He hadn't just walked away from a job, he had walked toward a future that was more aligned with who he truly was. Marcus's story is not unique. So many of us stay in situations, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a way of thinking, because we believe that staying is a sign of strength. We fear the judgment that might come if we choose to walk away. But the reality is that walking away requires an incredible amount of strength. It means facing the unknown, standing up for your own needs, and trusting that there is something better out there for you. Walking away is an act of self-respect. It's a statement that you will no longer tolerate being in a space that diminishes you. It's about acknowledging that you deserve to be in environments, relationships, and situations that uplift and support you. This chapter will guide you in redefining what strength means in your own life. You'll learn to recognize when it's time to let go and how to do so with grace and confidence. Consider your own life. Where are you holding on out of fear, rather than out of true desire? What situations are you enduring simply because you believe that walking away would mean you failed? It's time to challenge those beliefs. Walking away doesn't mean you've failed, it means you've chosen yourself. It means you've decided that your well-being, your happiness, and your peace of mind are worth more than staying in a situation that no longer serves you. In the pages that follow, you'll explore the inner dialogue that often keeps us stuck, and how to reframe those thoughts to empower yourself to make the difficult, but ultimately rewarding, choice to walk away. You'll gain the tools to build a new definition of strength, one that includes not just endurance, but also the courage to release what no longer serves you. Remember, strength is not about how much you can endure, but about knowing when it's time to step away. It's about having the courage to say, "This is not for me," and trusting that by walking away, you are opening the door to something better. Walking away is not the end, it's the beginning of a new chapter, one where you are the author, writing a story that aligns with your true self. Chapter 3. Embracing Uncertainty, the Freedom of the Unknown. We live in a world that values certainty. From a young age, we are taught to plan, to predict, to prepare for every possible outcome. We seek the comfort of knowing what comes next, clinging to the familiar even when it no longer serves us. Yet, there is a paradox at play. The more we try to control our lives, the more we constrain ourselves, shutting out the very opportunities that could lead us to greater fulfillment. What if the key to true freedom lies not in clinging to the known, but in embracing the uncertainty of the unknown? In this chapter, we'll explore the concept of uncertainty not as something to fear, but as a gateway to new possibilities. Walking away often means stepping into the unknown, leaving behind the security of what we know for the potential of what could be. It's a daunting prospect, to be sure, but it's also one of the most liberating choices you can make. Consider the story of Naomi, a woman who had spent years in a stable but unfulfilling relationship. She had grown accustomed to the routines, the predictability, and the comfort of having someone by her side, even as the relationship had begun to stagnate. Naomi knew deep down that she wasn't truly happy, that the connection she once felt with her partner had faded. Yet, the thought of walking away terrified her. What would life be like without the security of this relationship? Would she be alone forever? Would she regret her decision? These questions kept Naomi tethered to a situation that was no longer nurturing her, but as time passed, she began to realize that the certainty she clung to was an illusion. The comfort she sought was a false sense of security, one that came at the cost of her own growth and happiness. Naomi understood that by staying in the relationship, she was choosing the known over the potential for something greater. The unknown, with all its uncertainties, also held the promise of new beginnings, of rediscovering herself, and of finding a connection that truly resonated with her soul. The moment Naomi decided to walk away was the moment she chose to embrace the unknown. It wasn't an easy decision, far from it, but with each step she took away from the life she had known, she felt a sense of liberation. The world, once constrained by her fears, suddenly seemed full of possibilities. She didn't have all the answers, and that was okay. What mattered was that she had freed herself from the shackles of a life that no longer brought her joy. Naomi's story is a powerful reminder that the unknown is not something to be feared. It's a blank canvas, waiting for you to create your masterpiece. When you walk away from what no longer serves you, you're not just leaving something behind, you're stepping into a world of endless possibilities. The uncertainty that once seemed terrifying becomes a space of freedom, where you are no longer confined by the expectations of others or the limitations you've placed on yourself. This chapter will guide you through the process of embracing uncertainty and viewing it as an opportunity for growth rather than a source of fear. You'll learn how to reframe your mindset, seeing the unknown not as a void, but as a space filled with potential. We'll explore practical strategies for managing the anxiety that often accompanies stepping into the unknown, and how to cultivate a sense of trust in yourself and the journey ahead. Think about the areas of your life where you've been holding back, staying put because the alternative feels too uncertain. What possibilities might be waiting for you if you were to take that leap of faith? What new paths could open up if you allowed yourself to step into the unknown? Walking away from the familiar is an act of bravery. It requires trusting that you are capable of navigating whatever comes next, even if you can't see the entire path ahead. But here's the truth: you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. With each step into the unknown, you build resilience, confidence, and a deeper connection to your true self. In the following pages, you'll discover how to harness the power of uncertainty to create a life that is not only fulfilling but also deeply aligned with your values and desires. You'll learn how to let go of the need for control and embrace the freedom that comes from trusting the process. As you walk away from the known and step into the unknown, you'll find that the world is much bigger and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Remember, the unknown is where the magic happens. It's where you discover new strengths, new passions, and new possibilities. By embracing uncertainty, you open yourself up to a life that is not defined by fear, but by the limitless potential of what could be. Walking away is not just an ending, it's the beginning of a journey into the vast, unexplored territory of your own life. And that is where true freedom lies. Chapter 4. The Art of Self-Preservation, Prioritizing Your Well-Being. In a world that constantly demands more of us, more time, more energy, more commitment, it's easy to lose sight of one simple truth: you cannot pour from an empty cup. Self-preservation is not selfish, it is essential. Yet, many of us have been conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to how much we give, how much we sacrifice for others, and how well we meet external expectations. But what happens when giving becomes draining, when sacrificing leaves us depleted, and when the weight of expectations becomes too heavy to bear? It's in these moments that the art of self-preservation becomes not just important, but vital. In this chapter, we'll explore the concept of self-preservation, how to protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being in a world that often expects you to put yourself last. We'll examine the importance of prioritizing your own needs, and how doing so allows you to live a more balanced, fulfilling life. This is not about abandoning your responsibilities or neglecting your relationships. It's about recognizing that your well-being is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Let's consider the story of Ethan, a man who had always been the go-to person for everyone in his life. Friends called him at all hours for advice, his family leaned on him for support, and his colleagues relied on him to pick up the slack at work. Ethan took pride in being dependable, in always being there when someone needed him. But over time, he began to feel the strain. His own needs were pushed aside, his energy levels plummeted, and he found himself growing resentful of the very people he cared about. Ethan's breaking point came during a particularly stressful period at work, where he was juggling multiple projects and managing the expectations of his team. On top of that, his personal life was in turmoil, with family issues demanding even more of his time and attention. Despite feeling utterly exhausted, Ethan continued to push through, convinced that asking for help or taking a break would be a sign of weakness. It wasn't until Ethan experienced a severe anxiety attack that he realized something had to change. He had been so focused on meeting everyone else's needs that he had completely neglected his own. The wake-up call forced him to reassess his priorities and recognize that self-preservation was not a luxury, but a necessity. Ethan began to set boundaries at work, with his family, and with his friends. He learned to say no without guilt, understanding that protecting his time and energy was crucial for his well-being. He started to carve out time for activities that rejuvenated him, like going for long walks, reading, and spending time with people who uplifted him. Slowly, Ethan began to feel more balanced, more at peace, and more in control of his life. Ethan's journey is a powerful reminder that self-preservation is about more than just surviving, it's about thriving. It's about understanding that you have the right to prioritize your own needs, to protect your energy, and to create space for the things that nourish your soul. When you take care of yourself first, you are better equipped to show up for others in a way that is sustainable and fulfilling. This chapter will guide you through the steps of cultivating self-preservation in your own life. You'll learn how to identify the areas where you're overextending yourself and how to establish boundaries that protect your well-being. We'll explore practical strategies for managing stress, preventing burnout, and maintaining a healthy balance between giving to others and giving to yourself. Think about the last time you felt truly overwhelmed, stretched too thin by the demands of your life. What would it look like if you prioritized your well-being in those moments? How might your relationships, your work, and your overall happiness improve if you made self-preservation a priority? Walking away from situations, commitments, or relationships that drain you is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-love. It's recognizing that you are not responsible for everyone else's happiness, and that you cannot be everything to everyone without sacrificing your own well-being. By choosing to walk away from what depletes you, you are choosing to protect the most important resource you have, yourself. In the following pages, you'll discover the tools to practice self-preservation in a way that honors both your needs and your relationships. You'll learn how to communicate your boundaries clearly and compassionately, and how to let go of the guilt that often accompanies putting yourself first. Most importantly, you'll find that by preserving your own well-being, you not only enhance your life but also become a more present, more joyful, and more effective support for those you care about. Remember, self-preservation is not about isolating yourself from others, it's about ensuring that you have the energy, the peace, and the resilience to live your life fully. It's about recognizing that you deserve the same care and attention that you so readily give to others. Walking away from what drains you is not just a step toward better health, it's a step toward a life that is rich, balanced, and deeply fulfilling. Chapter 5. The Power of Saying No, Reclaiming Your Time and Energy. No, a simple word, yet one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. For many of us, saying no feels uncomfortable, perhaps even impossible. We worry about disappointing others, missing out on opportunities, or being perceived as unkind. But in our quest to please everyone around us, we often forget that every yes to someone else is, by default, a no to ourselves. The power of saying no lies not just in the act itself, but in the freedom and space it creates in our lives to focus on what truly matters. In this chapter, we'll explore the transformative power of saying no, and how it can be a key step in reclaiming your time, energy, and sense of self. We'll discuss why so many of us struggle with setting limits, the consequences of chronic people-pleasing, and practical strategies for learning to say no with confidence and grace. Consider the story of Sophie, a talented graphic designer who was known for her creativity and willingness to help others. Whether it was a colleague needing last-minute assistance on a project, a friend asking for free design work, or a family member seeking her time and attention, Sophie found it difficult to turn anyone down. She prided herself on being reliable, on always being there when others needed her. But as the requests piled up, Sophie began to feel overwhelmed, her own projects slipping through the cracks as she focused on everyone else's needs. Sophie's breaking point came when she missed an important deadline on a personal project, one that she had been passionate about for years, because she had been too busy helping others with their tasks. The realization hit her hard in her effort to say yes to everyone else. She had been saying no to herself, to her dreams, and to her own creative fulfillment. Sophie knew something had to change. The first step Sophie took was to examine why she found it so difficult to say no. She realized that much of her reluctance stemmed from a fear of being seen as unhelpful or selfish. She was also afraid of missing out on potential opportunities, convinced that every request was a chance to prove her worth. But as she reflected on her life, Sophie understood that her constant yeses were draining her of the energy she needed to pursue her own goals. She was giving so much to others that she had nothing left for herself. With this newfound awareness, Sophie began practicing the art of saying no. She started small, turning down requests that were clearly outside her capacity or that didn't align with her priorities. At first it felt uncomfortable, even nerve-wracking, but each time she said no, Sophie felt a little more empowered. She learned that saying no didn't make her a bad person, it made her a person who respected her own time and energy. And as she continued to set boundaries, Sophie noticed something remarkable. Not only did she feel less stressed and more focused, but the people around her began to respect her more, too. Sophie's journey is a testament to the power of saying no. It's a reminder that your time and energy are finite resources, and how you choose to spend them determines the quality of your life. When you say no to things that drain you or distract you from your goals, you are saying yes to yourself. You are making a conscious choice to protect your well-being and to prioritize the things that truly matter. This chapter will provide you with practical tools to help you say no with confidence and clarity. You'll learn how to identify the situations where saying no is necessary, and how to communicate your boundaries in a way that is respectful but firm. We'll also explore how to handle the guilt that often accompanies saying no, and how to reframe your thinking to see no as a positive, empowering choice. Think about the last time you said yes to something that you later regretted. What would have changed if you had allowed yourself to say no instead? How might your life be different if you reclaimed your time and energy by saying no to the things that don't serve you? Walking away from the expectation that you must always say yes is an act of liberation. It's about recognizing that your time is valuable and that you have the right to choose how you spend it. When you learn to say no, you take back control over your life, creating space for the activities, relationships, and projects that truly nourish you. In the pages that follow, you'll discover how to harness the power of no to create a life that is aligned with your values and desires. You'll learn to embrace no as a tool for self-care and self-respect, rather than as something to be feared or avoided. Most importantly, you'll find that by saying no to what drains you, you are saying yes to a life that is more fulfilling, more intentional, and more authentically you. Remember, every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you are making room for something that does. Walking away from the need to please everyone is not just about reclaiming your time, it's about reclaiming your life. And that is the greatest yes of all. Chapter 6. Letting go of guilt. Embracing the freedom of your choices. Guilt, a powerful emotion that can cling to us like a shadow, following every decision we make. For many, guilt is the silent force that keeps us tied to situations and relationships that no longer serve us. It whispers in our ear that by walking away we're abandoning our responsibilities, letting others down, or acting selfishly. But what if guilt is not the voice of reason, but the voice of fear? What if letting go of guilt is the key to unlocking the freedom to live life on your own terms? In this chapter, we will explore the complex nature of guilt, why it often holds us back, and how we can learn to release it in order to embrace the freedom that comes from making choices aligned with our true selves. We'll examine the roots of guilt, the ways it manifests in our lives, and the steps we can take to overcome it. Consider the story of Anya, a compassionate and empathetic woman who always went out of her way to help others. From a young age, Anya had been taught that it was her duty to take care of those around her, even if it meant sacrificing her own needs. As an adult, this belief translated into her being the one who held her family together, the friend who was always there to listen, and the employee who never said no to extra work. But beneath her calm exterior, Anya was struggling. She felt overwhelmed, exhausted, and increasingly resentful. Anya knew that she needed to make changes, to set boundaries, to say no, to prioritize her own well-being, but every time she thought about it, guilt would rise up within her. She felt guilty for even considering putting herself first, for imagining a life where she wasn't constantly available to others. The guilt was so pervasive that it kept her stuck in a cycle of overextending herself, even as it drained her of joy and energy. The turning point came when Anya finally allowed herself to question the guilt she was feeling. She asked herself why she believed that taking care of herself was wrong, why she equated self-care with selfishness. As she dug deeper, Anya realized that much of her guilt was rooted in societal expectations and the messages she had internalized over the years, messages that told her that her worth was tied to how much she could give to others, and that putting herself first was inherently wrong. With this newfound awareness, Anya began the process of letting go of guilt. She started small, allowing herself to say no to requests that felt overwhelming, and to carve out time for activities that brought her joy. Each time she felt the familiar pang of guilt, she reminded herself that taking care of herself was not only okay, it was necessary. Slowly, Anya began to see that her guilt was not a reflection of her true values, but a conditioned response that she could change. Anya's journey is a powerful example of how letting go of guilt can lead to profound personal freedom. It's a reminder that guilt often arises from external pressures and expectations, rather than from our own inner truth. When we allow guilt to dictate our choices, we give away our power and allow our lives to be shaped by the needs and desires of others. But when we let go of guilt, we reclaim that power, giving ourselves permission to live authentically and to make choices that are aligned with our true selves. This chapter will guide you through the process of identifying and releasing guilt in your own life. You'll learn to recognize when guilt is keeping you stuck, and how to challenge the beliefs that fuel it. We'll explore practical strategies for replacing guilt with self-compassion, and how to make decisions that honor your needs without being held back by fear or shame. Think about the areas of your life where guilt has been a constant companion. What decisions have you avoided making because of guilt? How might your life change if you let go of the guilt and embrace the freedom to choose what's best for you? Walking away from guilt is an act of self-liberation. It's about recognizing that you have the right to prioritize your own well-being, and that doing so doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you a whole person. When you let go of guilt, you open the door to living a life that is true to who you are, rather than one that is shaped by the expectations of others. In the following pages, you'll discover how to cultivate a mindset that is free from guilt, and how to make decisions that are guided by your own values and desires, rather than by fear or obligation. You'll learn to replace the voice of guilt with the voice of self-compassion, allowing yourself to embrace the choices that lead to a more fulfilling, balanced, and authentic life. Remember, guilt is not a measure of your worth or your goodness. It's a reflection of the pressures and expectations that have been placed upon you. By walking away from guilt, you are choosing to live a life that is true to yourself, a life that honors your needs, your boundaries, and your well-being. And in doing so, you are not only freeing yourself, you are setting an example for others to do the same. Chapter 7. Trusting your inner voice. The compass to authentic living. In a world filled with noise, opinions from others, societal expectations, and constant demands, it's easy to lose touch with the one voice that truly matters, your own. Your inner voice is your most authentic guide, the compass that points you toward your true north. Yet, many of us have been taught to distrust this voice, to prioritize external validation over internal wisdom. We're told to listen to the experts, to follow the crowd, to seek approval from others before we dare to trust ourselves. But what if the key to living an authentic, fulfilling life lies in learning to listen to, and trust, your inner voice? In this chapter, we will explore the power of your inner voice, the intuitive sense that guides you, the quiet knowing that often gets drowned out by the world's noise. We'll discuss how to reconnect with this voice, how to distinguish it from fear or doubt, and how to trust it as your most reliable source of guidance. Imagine the story of Lucas, a man who had always been logical, methodical, and reliant on external advice to make decisions. He believed that the key to success was gathering as much information as possible, weighing all the options, and then choosing the most rational path. But despite his careful planning, Lucas often found himself feeling unfulfilled, as if something important was missing from his life. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he knew that his current approach wasn't bringing him the satisfaction he had hoped for. One day, while contemplating a major career change, Lucas experienced a profound sense of inner conflict. On the one hand, all the logical signs pointed to staying in his current job. It was stable, well-paying, and respected by his peers. On the other hand, there was a quiet, persistent voice inside him urging him to take a risk, to pursue a passion he had long ignored. This voice was faint but unmistakable, and it filled him with both excitement and fear. For the first time in his life, Lucas decided to pay attention to this inner voice. He set aside the spreadsheets, the pros and cons lists, and the advice of well-meaning friends and family. Instead, he sat in silence, allowing himself to fully listen to what his inner voice was telling him. It wasn't long before he realized that this voice wasn't driven by logic or external expectations. It was driven by a deep understanding of who he truly was and what he genuinely desired. Trusting this inner voice wasn't easy for Lucas. It meant stepping away from the certainty of his current life and venturing into the unknown. But as he began to trust his inner guidance, Lucas found that doors started opening in ways he hadn't anticipated. Opportunities that aligned with his passion appeared, and he discovered a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment that had been missing for so long. Lucas learned that by trusting his inner voice, he was not just making a career change, he was making a commitment to live authentically, in alignment with his true self. Lucas's journey illustrates the transformative power of trusting your inner voice. It's a reminder that within you lies a source of wisdom that is uniquely yours, a compass that knows the way to your most authentic life. When you learn to listen to and trust this voice, you begin to live in harmony with your true desires, rather than conforming to the expectations of others or the dictates of logic alone. This chapter will guide you in reconnecting with your inner voice and learning to trust it as your most important guide. You'll explore techniques for quieting the external noise that often drowns out this voice, and how to distinguish between your true inner guidance and the voices of fear or doubt that can sometimes masquerade as intuition. We'll also discuss how to integrate this inner wisdom into your decision-making process, allowing it to lead you toward a life that is authentically yours. Think about the last time you made a decision that didn't feel quite right, even if it seemed logical or was encouraged by others. What might have changed if you had trusted your inner voice instead? How might your life look different if you allowed your inner guidance to lead the way, rather than relying solely on external input? Walking away from the need for external validation and choosing to trust your inner voice is an act of deep self-respect. It's about acknowledging that you know what is best for you, even when it goes against conventional wisdom or the expectations of those around you. When you trust your inner voice, you are choosing to live a life that is true to who you are, rather than one that is dictated by others. In the following pages, you'll discover practical steps to cultivate a stronger connection with your inner voice and to trust it in your everyday life. You'll learn to embrace your inner wisdom as a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of life and making decisions that align with your deepest values and desires. Most importantly, you'll find that by trusting your inner voice, you open the door to a life of authenticity, fulfillment, and true joy. Remember, your inner voice is your most reliable guide. It knows you better than anyone else and is always steering you toward what is right for you. Walking away from the noise of the world and tuning into this voice is not just a step toward greater clarity, it's a step toward living a life that is fully and authentically yours. Chapter 8. Breaking Free from the Chains of Perfectionism. Perfectionism, at first glance, it can seem like a noble pursuit, a drive toward excellence and achievement. But beneath its polished surface, perfectionism is often a heavy chain that binds us, keeping us trapped in a cycle of unrealistic expectations and relentless self-criticism. It whispers that nothing we do is ever good enough, that any mistake is a failure, and that we must constantly strive to be better, faster, more. But what if the quest for perfection is actually holding us back? What if the freedom we seek lies not in being perfect, but in embracing our imperfections? In this chapter, we will explore the damaging effects of perfectionism and how it can prevent us from living authentically and fully. We'll delve into the roots of perfectionism, why it's so hard to let go of, and how we can begin to break free from its grip to embrace a life of greater ease, creativity, and joy. Consider the story of Mia, a highly successful lawyer who seemed to have it all: a thriving career, a beautiful home, and the admiration of her peers. But beneath her polished exterior, Mia was struggling. She spent countless hours agonizing over every detail of her work, redoing tasks that were already perfect in the eyes of others, and pushing herself to the brink of exhaustion in the pursuit of flawlessness. She was driven by an insatiable need to prove her worth, both to herself and to those around her. Despite her outward success, Mia never felt satisfied. There was always something more to achieve, something that wasn't quite right, something she could have done better. This constant striving left her feeling drained, disconnected from her loved ones, and perpetually anxious. Mia knew she was caught in a cycle of perfectionism, but she didn't know how to break free. The very idea of letting go, of accepting that good enough might actually be enough, terrified her. The turning point for Mia came when she realized that her perfectionism was not just about her work, it was seeping into every aspect of her life. She found herself avoiding activities she once loved because she feared she wouldn't excel at them. She noticed that her relationships were suffering because she was too focused on meeting impossible standards rather than being present with those she cared about. And she began to see that her relentless pursuit of perfection was robbing her of the very joy and fulfillment she was seeking. Mia decided to make a change. She began to challenge the belief that her worth was tied to her achievements, and she started to embrace the idea that making mistakes, taking risks, and being imperfect were all part of a rich, meaningful life. It wasn't easy. Years of perfectionist thinking don't just disappear overnight, but with time, Mia learned to be kinder to herself. She started setting realistic goals, allowing herself to take breaks, and most importantly, she began to appreciate her efforts rather than focusing solely on the outcome. Mia's journey highlights the liberating power of letting go of perfectionism. It's a reminder that the pursuit of perfection is a never-ending race with no finish line, one that leaves us exhausted and unfulfilled. When we break free from the chains of perfectionism, we open ourselves up to the full spectrum of life: its messiness, its unpredictability, its beauty. We give ourselves permission to be human, to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow. This chapter will guide you through the process of identifying and releasing perfectionist tendencies in your own life. You'll learn to recognize the signs of perfectionism, understand its roots, and explore practical strategies for embracing imperfection. We'll discuss the importance of self-compassion, how to set healthy, achievable goals, and how to find joy in the process rather than obsessing over the end result. Think about the areas of your life where perfectionism has taken hold. How has it impacted your work, your relationships, your hobbies? What might change if you allowed yourself to be imperfect, to make mistakes, and to let go of the need to always be the best? Walking away from perfectionism is an act of courage. It's about accepting that you are enough as you are, that your value doesn't depend on flawless performance or the approval of others. It's about giving yourself the freedom to explore, to experiment, and to enjoy life without the constant pressure to achieve perfection. In the pages that follow, you'll discover how to cultivate a mindset that values progress over perfection, and how to find contentment in doing your best, even when it's not perfect. You'll learn to celebrate your efforts, to embrace your imperfections, and to live more fully in the present moment. Remember, perfectionism is a trap that keeps us from experiencing the richness of life. By walking away from the need to be perfect, you are choosing to embrace the wholeness of who you are, flaws and all. You are choosing to live a life that is authentic, joyful, and free. And in that freedom, you will find the true beauty of imperfection. Chapter 9. Releasing Toxic Relationships. The Courage to Walk Away. Toxic relationships can be like quicksand, slowly pulling you under, draining your energy, and suffocating your spirit. At first they may seem manageable, even normal, but over time they become all-consuming, leaving you feeling trapped and powerless. The fear of loneliness, the hope that things will change, or the belief that you owe something to the other person can keep you stuck in a relationship that is doing more harm than good. But the truth is, the most courageous and self-loving act you can take is to walk away from a relationship that no longer nurtures your well-being. In this chapter, we will explore the dynamics of toxic relationships, what makes them toxic, why we often stay longer than we should, and how to muster the courage to leave. We'll discuss the signs of toxicity, the emotional toll it takes, and the steps you can take to reclaim your life and your happiness. Let's consider the story of Clara, a woman who had been in a relationship with her partner Alex for several years. In the beginning, their relationship was filled with passion and excitement, but as time passed, things began to change. Alex became increasingly critical, dismissive of Clara's feelings, and manipulative. He would often blame Clara for problems in the relationship, making her feel responsible for his outbursts and emotional volatility. Despite the growing tension, Clara stayed, hoping that things would return to the way they were in the early days. Clara's friends and family began to notice the changes in her. Once confident and vibrant, she now seemed anxious, withdrawn, and constantly on edge. They urged her to consider leaving Alex, but Clara felt conflicted. She remembered the good times, the moments when Alex was loving and attentive, and she didn't want to give up on the relationship. She also feared being alone and worried about what others might think if she walked away. The turning point came when Clara realized that her relationship with Alex was not just difficult, it was toxic. She started to see the patterns of manipulation and control for what they were, and she understood that Alex's behavior was not her fault. With the support of her loved ones, Clara made the difficult decision to leave. It wasn't easy, walking away from a long-term relationship never is, but as soon as she did, Clara felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For the first time in years, she felt free. Clara's story is a powerful reminder that toxic relationships can be incredibly damaging, but they do not have to define your life. You have the power to walk away, to choose your well-being over the fear of the unknown, and to create space for healthier, more fulfilling connections. Walking away from a toxic relationship is not a failure, it's a courageous step toward reclaiming your happiness and your sense of self. This chapter will guide you through the process of recognizing and releasing toxic relationships in your own life. You'll learn to identify the red flags of toxicity, understand the psychological impact of staying in such relationships, and develop the strength to leave. We'll also explore how to rebuild your life after walking away, and how to cultivate relationships that uplift and support you. Think about the relationships in your life, romantic, familial, or friendships. Are there any that consistently leave you feeling drained, diminished, or disrespected? What would it mean for you to walk away from these relationships and choose yourself instead? Walking away from toxic relationships is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It's about acknowledging that you deserve to be treated with kindness, respect, and love, and that you have the right to remove yourself from situations that compromise your well-being. When you walk away, you are not only protecting yourself, but you are also setting a powerful example for others that it is okay to choose your own happiness, even when it means making difficult decisions. In the following pages, you'll discover practical strategies for ending toxic relationships and healing from their effects. You'll learn to rebuild your self-esteem, to trust yourself again, and to open your heart to healthier, more positive connections. Most importantly, you'll find that by releasing toxic relationships, you create space in your life for the people and experiences that truly bring you joy. Remember, toxic relationships are not worth the cost to your mental, emotional, and physical health. By walking away, you are choosing to break free from the chains of negativity and to embrace a life that is filled with love, respect, and peace. And in that choice, you will find the courage to live fully and authentically, free from the toxicity that once held you back. Chapter 10. The Gift of Letting Go. Embracing New Beginnings. Letting go, two simple words that carry the weight of the world. Whether it's the end of a relationship, the loss of a dream, or the closure of a chapter in your life, letting go can feel like the hardest thing you'll ever do. We hold on so tightly to what was, to what we thought should be, or to what we hoped could have been, that we often miss the beauty of what lies ahead. But here's the truth: letting go is not about giving up, it's about making space for something new, something better, something that is aligned with who you are now and who you are becoming. In this chapter, we will explore the powerful, transformative act of letting go. We'll discuss why letting go is so difficult, the emotional journey it entails, and the incredible gifts that await on the other side. Letting go is not an ending, it's a beginning, a chance to step into a new chapter of your life with open arms and an open heart. Imagine the story of Javier, a man who had spent years building his dream business. It was everything he had ever wanted: creative, fulfilling, and deeply connected to his passions. But over time, the business began to struggle. Market conditions changed, competition increased, and Javier found himself facing challenges he hadn't anticipated. Despite his best efforts, things continued to decline, and Javier was forced to confront the possibility that his dream might not survive. For months, Javier held on. He poured more time, more money, and more energy into trying to save the business, convinced that if he just worked harder, things would turn around. But the reality was that the business had run its course, and holding on was only causing Javier more stress, more pain, and more financial strain. Still, the idea of letting go felt unbearable. This business was more than just a job to Javier. It was a part of his identity, a symbol of his hard work and determination. Letting go felt like failure, and he wasn't sure who he would be without it. The turning point came when Javier realized that holding on was not only preventing him from healing but also from moving forward. He began to see that by clinging to the past, he was closing himself off to new opportunities, new dreams, and new possibilities. With great difficulty, Javier made the decision to let go. He closed the business, said goodbye to that chapter of his life, and allowed himself to grieve the loss. But in doing so, he also gave himself permission to start anew. What followed was nothing short of transformative. Free from the burden of trying to save a failing business, Javier found that his creative energy began to flow again. He started exploring new projects, new ideas, and new ways of expressing his passions. And while it wasn't easy, letting go never is, Javier discovered that the space he had created by letting go was filled with possibilities he hadn't even imagined. What he thought was an ending was, in fact, the beginning of something even more meaningful. Javier's story is a powerful reminder that letting go is not about losing, it's about making room for growth. It's about acknowledging that some things, no matter how much we love them, are meant to be temporary. When we let go, we honor the past for what it was and embrace the future for what it can be. This chapter will guide you through the process of letting go, whether it's of a relationship, a dream, a belief, or any other aspect of your life that is no longer serving you. You'll learn how to navigate the emotional terrain of letting go, how to honor your feelings without getting stuck in them, and how to cultivate a mindset that is open to new beginnings. Think about the areas of your life where you've been holding on too tightly. What are you afraid to let go of? How might your life change if you allowed yourself to release what is no longer serving you and embrace the possibilities that lie ahead? Walking away from what no longer serves you is an act of self-compassion. It's about recognizing that you deserve to live a life that is aligned with your true self, and that sometimes the only way to move forward is to let go of what is holding you back. Letting go is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's about trusting that the universe has something better in store for you, even if you can't see it yet. In the following pages, you'll discover the tools and practices to help you let go with grace and to step into the next chapter of your life with confidence and hope. You'll learn to embrace the unknown, to trust the process, and to find peace in the knowledge that every ending is also a beginning. Remember, letting go is a gift you give to yourself. It's the gift of freedom, of possibility, and of new beginnings. By walking away from what no longer serves you, you are choosing to live a life that is true to who you are now, a life that is rich with potential, filled with love, and open to the endless possibilities that await. Chapter 11. The Strength and Vulnerability, Embracing Your True Self. Vulnerability, just the word, can make us flinch. In a society that often equates vulnerability with weakness, the idea of exposing our true selves can feel terrifying. We build walls, wear masks, and create personas to protect ourselves from judgment, rejection, and pain. But in doing so, we also shut ourselves off from deep connections, authentic living, and the very experiences that make life meaningful. What if, instead of fearing vulnerability, we saw it as a source of strength? What if embracing vulnerability is the key to living a life that is truly our own? In this chapter, we will explore the profound power of vulnerability. We'll discuss how embracing our true selves' flaws, fears, and all can lead to greater connection, creativity, and courage. Vulnerability is not about being exposed to harm, it's about being open to life, to love, and to the richness of human experience. Consider the story of Elena, a woman who had always prided herself on being strong, independent, and in control. She had built a successful career, maintained a wide circle of friends, and was known for her resilience. But beneath her confident exterior, Elena carried a deep fear of being seen as weak. She avoided emotional conversations, rarely asked for help, and kept her struggles hidden, even from those closest to her. To the outside world, Elena seemed to have it all together, but inside, she felt isolated, disconnected, and exhausted from the effort of maintaining her image. Everything changed when Elena experienced a significant personal loss, the death of her beloved father. The grief was overwhelming, and for the first time in her life, Elena found herself unable to keep up the facade of strength. She broke down in front of her friends, openly expressing her pain, confusion, and vulnerability. At first, it felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. She feared that others would see her differently, that she would lose their respect, or that they would pull away. But something surprising happened. Instead of distancing themselves, Elena's friends rallied around her, offering support, love, and understanding. Far from losing respect, they admired her honesty and the courage it took to show her true self. In her vulnerability, Elena found a new strength, a strength that came from being authentic, from letting others in, and from allowing herself to be seen as she truly was. Elena's journey is a powerful example of the strength that comes from embracing vulnerability. It's a reminder that true connection, whether in relationships, creativity, or life itself, comes from being open and honest about who we are, even when it feels uncomfortable or risky. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for deeper connections, for healing, and for growth. We give others permission to be vulnerable too, fostering an environment where authenticity is valued over perfection. This chapter will guide you through the process of embracing vulnerability in your own life. You'll learn how to let go of the fear of judgment, how to build the courage to show up as your true self, and how to cultivate relationships and environments that support and celebrate vulnerability. We'll explore practical ways to practice vulnerability, from sharing your feelings with loved ones to taking creative risks, and how to navigate the discomfort that often comes with being open. Think about the areas of your life where you've been holding back, where fear of vulnerability has kept you from fully expressing yourself. What might change if you allowed yourself to be seen, to be heard, and to be known for who you truly are? Walking away from the need to always be strong, perfect, or in control is an act of liberation. It's about accepting that vulnerability is not a weakness but a profound source of strength. When you embrace vulnerability, you embrace life in all its messy, beautiful complexity. You allow yourself to be human, to make mistakes, to feel deeply, and to connect with others on a level that is real and meaningful. In the following pages, you'll discover how to embrace vulnerability as a path to greater self-awareness, deeper relationships, and a more authentic life. you'll learn to see vulnerability not as something to be feared, but as a gateway to courage, creativity, and connection. Most importantly, you'll find that by embracing your true self, you open the door to a life that is rich with love, fulfillment, and meaning. Remember, there is strength in vulnerability. By walking away from the need to hide, to protect, or to perform, you are choosing to live a life that is true to who you are. You are choosing to show up fully, to be seen, and to connect with others in ways that are real and profound. And in that choice, you will discover a strength that is far greater than anything you could have imagined. Take care, and be well. Chapter 12. The Path to Inner Peace: Letting Go of Control. Control is something we all crave, something we believe will bring us security, certainty, and success. We try to control our circumstances, our relationships, our future, and even our emotions. But the truth is, the more we try to control, the more we find ourselves trapped in a cycle of anxiety, frustration, and disappointment. Life is unpredictable, people are unpredictable, and despite our best efforts, not everything will go according to plan. What if, instead of clinging to control, we learn to let go? What if the path to true inner peace lies in embracing the flow of life, rather than resisting it? In this chapter, we will explore the power of letting go of control and how it can lead to greater peace, freedom, and fulfillment. We'll discuss why the need for control is so deeply ingrained in us, the negative impact it can have on our lives, and how to cultivate a mindset of surrender and acceptance. Consider the story of Ryan, a meticulous planner who thrived on order and predictability. He had his life mapped out, career goals, personal milestones, and even his daily routines were all carefully orchestrated. Ryan believed that by controlling every aspect of his life, he could ensure success and avoid disappointment. For a while it seemed to work. He achieved his goals, excelled in his career, and maintained a sense of stability that he valued deeply. But as time went on, Ryan began to encounter situations that were beyond his control, unexpected changes at work, health challenges, and shifts in his personal life that he hadn't anticipated. These disruptions threw him into a tailspin of anxiety and frustration. The harder he tried to regain control, the more things seemed to slip through his fingers. Ryan found himself in a constant state of stress, unable to enjoy the present, because he was so focused on trying to manage the future. The turning point for Ryan came during a particularly challenging period when nothing seemed to be going according to plan. Exhausted from the constant struggle, he finally allowed himself to consider the possibility that he didn't need to control everything. What if, instead of fighting against the current, he allowed himself to go with the flow? What if he trusted that life had its own rhythm, and that by letting go, he could find a new sense of peace? With this shift in perspective, Ryan began to practice letting go. It wasn't about giving up or becoming passive, it was about accepting that not everything could be controlled, and that there was strength in adapting to whatever life presented. Ryan learned to focus on what he could control: his attitude, his responses, and his actions, while letting go of the need to control outcomes that were beyond his reach. As he did, he noticed a profound change. The anxiety that had plagued him began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm and presence he hadn't experienced in years. Ryan found that by letting go of control, he was able to engage more fully with life, to be more flexible, and to find joy in the unexpected. Ryan's journey is a powerful reminder that control is often an illusion, and that true peace comes from acceptance. Letting go of control doesn't mean resigning yourself to whatever happens, it means trusting that you have the strength and resilience to handle whatever comes your way. It's about embracing life's uncertainties with an open heart and mind, and finding freedom in the flow of the present moment. This chapter will guide you through the process of letting go of control in your own life. You'll learn to identify the areas where your need for control is holding you back, how to practice acceptance and surrender, and how to cultivate a mindset that embraces change and uncertainty. We'll explore practical techniques for managing anxiety, staying grounded in the present, and developing trust in yourself and in the journey of life. Think about the areas of your life where you've been holding on too tightly. What would it look like to let go, to trust in the flow of life rather than trying to control every outcome? How might your life change if you embrace the unpredictability of the future with openness rather than fear? Walking away from the need for control is an act of liberation. It's about recognizing that you don't need to have all the answers, that you don't need to force everything to go your way. It's about trusting that life has a rhythm of its own, and that by aligning yourself with that rhythm, you can find a deeper sense of peace, joy, and fulfillment. In the following pages, you'll discover how to let go of the need for control and how to embrace a more fluid, adaptable approach to life. You'll learn to trust in your own ability to navigate whatever comes your way and to find strength in your flexibility. Most importantly, you'll find that by letting go of control, you open yourself up to the richness and beauty of life as it unfolds, moment by moment. Remember, letting go of control is not about losing power, it's about gaining freedom. By walking away from the constant struggle to manage every detail, you are choosing to live a life that is grounded in peace, presence, and acceptance. And in that choice, you will find a sense of inner peace that no amount of control could ever bring. Final words. Embracing the power of walking away. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want to leave you with a final thought, a powerful reminder of the strength, courage, and wisdom that lies within you. The decision to walk away is never an easy one. It requires deep introspection, immense bravery, and a profound commitment to your own well-being. But as you've discovered throughout these pages, walking away is not an act of defeat, it's an act of empowerment. Walking away is about reclaiming your life. It's about recognizing when a situation, relationship, or mindset no longer serves you and having the courage to step into the unknown in search of something better. It's about trusting yourself enough to make the choices that align with your true values and desires, even when those choices are difficult or unpopular. Take care and be well.